Hey, everybody. Happy Friday night. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming. Just want to put something out there that this video is non judgmental. There are no right or wrong answers. We're just going to be expressing our opinions. And we might be pushing our opinions here and there just to see where we go, see different perspectives. But again, this is a judgment free zone. So if you feel something we say is a little bit confrontational for you, I welcome the comment. But remember, be a little bit unbiased with your ideas and just and express them, but be open to different perspectives, let's just say that. And welcome to the show, Courtney.
Hi, Lucky.
Yeah, this is wonderful Friday night. So how was your
My
week?
week, my life, my day. Hello everybody. Courtney here from Stars of the Morning Light. Um, I had a week of appointments, like nonstop appointments, and the you know appointments that don't happen like they're yearly appointments, all in one week is very wild. And so to tell you the truth, I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit tired. The star of the morning is a bit tired on this live at 8 o'clock here at Lucky Stone 888. It was just a week of that. The dog, for all of those that might be here and love the dog Samson, he had his yearly today, and the vet was actually happy with
Oh,
how
good.
he's doing considering all of his ailments. So there you go. Sammy got a clean bill of health today, Lucky, so that's good.
That is perfect. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Because our the dogs and the cats, they deserve when they're good to us, they deserve a little good long life.
Yeah. And I don't severe allergies to the whole world and all things that um he takes special care. He's a special needs dog, so it's like when we have a vet appointment, I'm kind of, and we stay with the same vet when we got him. We live
Mm,
towns and towns away now. So it's
wow.
like a 40-hour long drive, something like that. But it's because she knows him. And so it's not just that. And of course, it was driving home in rush hour. And it's like, oh, and now I got a dog that's been all of his shots and he's laid out. And I'm like, oh, God. So that was my Friday afternoon, but I'm happy and happy Memorial Day weekend here in the States.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Happy Memorial, and thank you to our troops and
Yeah,
what they do for us. Unsung heroes, quite honestly. The government uses them for a place they shouldn't be, but
yes.
they do their job.
Lucky, I live in a small town, small southern town now, that they line the streets with full size American flags with crosses and all of the names of the men and women who sir have died in any war from revolution to current. And I'm thinking about trying to film it that just drive some of the streets to be like, look at this, folks. It's you can't drive downtown without like feeling the impact. It's impossible. And I think we got a little bit of grant money from the government that there's even more this year, like to represent everybody. And it's impactful to see.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Hello, Seeker of Truth. Welcome to the show. Hello, Shelley. Whew.
All right, Lucky. So this is your gig, man.
Yeah.
I'm natural at doing this. Maybe not so natural for you, but this is your gig.
Okay. I'm gonna break in with which I have different paths I was gonna take, and I'm gonna start with this. Egregores. We know what egregores are, but what is your perspective when you have the interdimensionals and you have the elementals? Now, where do you think egregores would fall into that, if at all?
Okay, so I guess though we might need audience members. Like, what's the definition of an egregore then, though? Like, for Are we just talking thought forms?
I'm going to go with the thought forms, which is what my experience with Egregores are, is basically just a being that either you, aware or not aware, create to, quote, do your bidding or help you or whatever, because that's what Egregores technically could be, is that where they were basically just beings who represented something, but unfortunately they were created by an individual or a group.
Right. This is kind of a broad question then, because then I would have to pose the question of like, are we not egregores? Like, think of the old saying of like, you were a glimmer in your parents' eye before you were born. You know, like that old kind of thing of like, isn't all things thought forms? I know we're going to probably narrow it down, but I do want to pose that of like, to have it play off of like interdimensionals and elementals and all of it. Well, everything is thought somewhere. Everything was created out of something. Um, I mean, even in ancient scripture, you know, the Bible says first was the word, but if you go into more ancient scriptures, it's more first was thought. First was thought. So therefore, everything sense from creation came from some form of thought, and then it'll go into like, you know, the cause and effect is created from the first
Yeah,
thought. So it's hard for me personally, but I think what you're trying to go to is the ones that are created by groups today or individuals.
right.
Is that
The
what you're
idea is that,
going
yeah,
into?
I'm going to the
Yeah.
idea is that if there was an egregore, predominantly, would you think it would be more of an interdimensional kind of being, or would it be more of an elemental, or is it just outside of that definition?
Gotcha. Okay. Because, see, I put egregores into categories too, to tell you the truth. So this is a
I
bit,
understand, but
yeah,
because
yeah.
the word is being bandied about sometimes, and and for the most part, it's an energetic being. But where does it fall? And is it its own class? Because energetic beings are all these beings kind of energetic beings in some form or fashion.
Right. So it's kind of like other things of like, so if we had like the overcap theme as egregores, that there might be subcategories then like topas or even golems or, you know, stuff like of that nature that would probably be under the same category.
Hmm.
So it's as far as interdimensional and elemental, well, for me personally, I would have to then, I think, look at the different categories of what essentially is an egregore in its own right. So I'm going to say yes to all of it. You know what I mean? Like, yes, like they're interdimensional, elemental, all of it, because I think it's more of a where does it lie in the category way
Hmm.
of as to what type of quote unquote egregore it is.
I mean,
Uh, that's probably without going into like these extreme detail explanations of stuff. That's probably the best way I could sum it up.
yeah, I can see that, because that's why I try to start it, because I don't know how to define them as being an elemental. Well, kind of, but not really. And then interdimensional. Well, I think they rely on others to create them and to feed them and to keep them in existence. So once there's no one who believes in them, they just kind of go away.
Right,
So would
and
that make it
that's
interdimensional, though, or to just because, again, a dimensional being have to exist in a dimension, but be able to transfer from dimension to dimension? And if it's our creation, can it go to a different dimension, or do
It
we say
depends
no?
on, yeah, that it depends on the intent and honestly the power source that it's derived from.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm saying it's kind of hard because um like, okay, so take a topa. A topa is usually created by one person, and they usually don't even know that they're doing it,
Hmm.
right? Well, that topa is not necessarily going to be able to shift in and out of dimensions, right?
Hmm.
But then take, like I said, like a golem. A golem would be more of, it is an elemental thought form created by a human, right?
Right, right.
Made out of earth. Well, then think of the thought forms that are created by a group of people. And if they have the right sense of intention and know what they're doing and the power within to create a being that can travel within dimensions, then yes. So it's, the question's tricky because it's a case by case basis. It's a case by case, what is, how is it being created? What is it created out of? Who's creating it? And how powerful is that human or group or other being itself creating it? So kind of, I mean, there's a lot that would be at play to answer a question just flat out like that.
I can understand that.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I think with egregores, I mean, that could be a huge series or book in itself as to the question, are we egregores, us humans, all these beings, all of creation, anything this dimension and beyond, are they not egregores? You could pose that question and then also then start categorizing things and as to how they are made, how, what do you do with this, what do you do with that, and so forth, and bring up what you even said, like if it stops being talked about or talked to or played with or whatever. Because in a lot of ways, I mean, people used to think, and I still believe, because we actually see it in social media, they used to believe that if you told a story enough and you believe so wholeheartedly in a story, that story comes to life,
Hmm.
right? It's kind of like the backdrop as to even a lot of our horror movies. Um, that can still apply to things that are out there in social media. If it's told enough, people buy into it enough energies put into it, that can become its own thing. So even if it's a scenario, a situation, a group, one singular being, what exactly is a thought form, right?
Hmm.
So it's such a broad topic to, yeah, I don't have any simple answers apparently, right?
It's a tough one. That's just thinking. I said, but hello, Jackie J. Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you coming. Yeah, so that's the egregores, and with the egregores, there's always the can of worms. Or would you work with an egregore, or would you? Someone asks you about working with an egregore, would you offer any advice?
uh, like one that like I created by myself or
No,
like
no, no. Okay, that I asked. Unfortunately, I asked two questions. One
mhm.
question is, have you created your own egregore, and would you create your own egregore for any work,
Any purpose.
or any purpose?
Um I personally wouldn't because the majority, I hate saying it, the majority of the people that do, it's with intent. Why else would you be creating this thing? If it's not to do your, chores at the house, well, then it is to serve you in some way that you feel you're not empowered yourself to do,
Hmm.
right? If it's not, and it could be something even drastic. Most of the people that I know, either through study of history of groups that did it and it turned out horribly, and or individuals, it still turned out horribly because the intent was always to create something to cause harm in, instead of themselves, right? It's the troll behind the keyboard, right? So freely out there. I think it could be created with positive and therefore do positive things. The aspect of that, though, is if it's in a group setting. I mean, take Madame Blavatsky's people, right? Take them. Originally, they good, they all had good intent. Well, the more that they grew, the more corrupt it became, the more the good started going away, and they started doing things with all sorts of practices like this that she spoke against, and then they went against her. Like they threatened to put her into psychic prison, which a lot of people don't even think that exists, and it completely exists. So I personally, I don't feel that I need it because I don't, that's giving my power to something else when I can do it myself. But if it's a group that would like me to be a part of, to keep it positive, to keep everything positive and in good spirits, there's a lot of tending to, if it's a original thought form, a lot of attending to that everybody has to be in the same accord. Everyone has to be on the same page. A lot attending to, because this is now a new baby being that has to be taught and taught and taught and taught. And to tell you the truth, that's in a lot of ways how many groups, they start with good intentions, and then throughout history it's been proven that they had to then destroy the egregore or lock it away because within the own dynamics and or individuals, they lost the gumption, they lost the positivity, which will happen because we're human. We're It's gonna happen. We're gonna have really shitty days, and maybe because we see this egregore as our little being, maybe we'll take it out on them. Maybe we'll feed the being with negative thoughts, whatever it may be. That's why it kind of goes astray, because if it's not tended to on a consistent basis, then after a time it kind of becomes like, well, that rebellious teenager that still doesn't know anything but thinks it does, so then it's causing a muck. So um it's a process that all humans that would be creating it would have to be on the same page, and it's a very consistent process. And I throughout history there's never been one that's accomplished creating for a good cause and sustaining the good. And it's because if it's based on a human energy, humans can't do that. We're going to have our down days, our up days, our down days, and it's attached to us.
Yeah.
So now we have a being that's going through essentially humans' emotions, but it has no idea what a human emotion is, right? So it's a tricky game, and many have tempted it, and we were a part of a little thing like that. And if somebody were, the group has to be very small. It has to be very much on the same page. And it's like the consistency is not just with tending to the egregore, it's also then tending to people in the group.
Hmm.
Where's your mind at today? If your mind's not right, don't talk to that being, right?
Hmm.
If you're this, it has to be very, very structured. And then if things start going sideways, well, then things have to be tended to immediately. And you can
Yeah.
destroy an egregore. It's not the same as like an elemental. You don't destroy an elemental. And a lot of people would say, well, don't kill egregores either because it's part of creation. Well, depending on what's going on, and if you're the one who's experimenting with this stuff, well, then you do also have the right. I don't think that's correct and proper, but I don't think it's correct and proper for anyone to really make these things. Like I said, most groups that I know, it was to inflict harm on others for their bidding.
Mhm.
and and then they have that egregore go do their bidding, and then they lock it away. Well, then if that thing's ever released, it's not, it's dangerous.
Mhm.
So, did I answer questions? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
it's kind of weird because I've realized, Lucky, that when we're on your channel live, it's not so much of a conversation; it's more of a, a question. But I think I do the same thing to you
Mhm.
when we're over on mine. I think I do. I'm not aware of it.
Welcome, Lori Elderkin. Thank you for coming. Yeah, it is. It is. Egregores are a tough thing to define and then explain to someone who wants to work with them how. Oof.
I just don't. My whole thing is, we give our power away to so many quote unquote already egregores, government, whoever's an authority, whoever's this, who's ever that. We give so much of our power away to already so many things. Why would we give our power away to something that we have no idea if it's going to be stable and actually work for us or work against us? Why would we do that and instead of owning and trusting our own power and walking in that to create the positive that we want to create? It is much easier to work with the energy that's already within this body of form than to create all new energy to then go out and do what you need it to do. Just do it yourself. It's like it's that's the part. But we live in a world, that people want to play. They play with a lot of things and they think they know a lot of things, and they don't. um so the play, with all this stuff is difficult. But also, we live in a world where it is so much easier to have someone else do it for you, isn't it? It's so much easier. Well, if somebody else is doing it for you, then it's not going to go the way you would like, unless it was up to you, right?
Yeah.
So I wish people would stop giving their power away, period.
Mhm. I can understand that. So I'm going to take a little bit of a detour, but it actually, as I think about it, well,
Do
let's let.
whatever you want,
I
Lucky.
don't
It's
want to. I don't
Friday
want to
night.
influence because I have an idea. So we have angels and we have demons. Now, the whole story in the Bible is that some of the angels under Lucifer, the most powerful, the most beautiful one, turned against the kingdom of heaven. And then they were cast out of heaven. They became the demons. I'm going to go with something that
Go for it.
I'm just going to complete the thought. The demons that infect people, because we've seen them. We've seen people with influenced by negative entities.
Hmm.
Are these demons from those cast out of heaven? Or do you think maybe perhaps the demons were actually egregores who were created by someone else and somehow found another person who was not able to control them, but feed them in something in a way? So I might have been led you in this question, but do you think demons are what do you think demons are? Angels are easy. Oh, good, love, and light. Then there's levels of them.
Angels are easy? No, they're not. First of all, that's a fallacy.
Okay.
but but uh do I believe
Do you
go
believe
ahead.
that the demons are form? That's what I should have started with. Do you believe that the predominant amount of I'm going to start all because all is not a good, but predominantly amount of demons were former angels. Let's go with that.
Do I believe that the predominant amount of demons were once angels? God, no. That's a clear no. I don't that's that story is not accurate. I mean, that hands down, that story is not accurate. That's a big can of worms, Lucky. That story is not accurate. Um, at all. I get the intent of that story, but it's not accurate. Definitely not accurate with Lucifer and the going against God and fighting. That is so not accurate. Anyways, um, to then I think get to where you're going. They're definitely that's not demons. Um, are demons like Egregores? There's different kinds of demons out there. So I mean, there's some. It's gonna sound weird to people, but there's demons that are actually more like you would put them in like the elemental category, but they're not good. We kind of talked about this last time in the last one that we were live, and to you, we kind of brought up the question of like, well, they're not good to us humans, but they're just doing what they do, right? That's a lot of them, but there are some elementals that, yeah, they were created bad and they are bad, you know? Um, so it kind of goes back to, well, how were they created? Who created them? Are they thought forms? Are they egregores? Goes back to, aren't we all? You know, creation is first thought. And opposed to, you know, when it says like the word. Well, the word is thought. So, um, how do you feel about my answer so far, Lucky? Because I'm trying to like, where do you go with this, Courtney? You know?
It's tough because, okay, it's demons to me are very much opportunistic parasites, and they look for an opening, and that's the problem. And if you don't have to be all love and light, but you do have to be in a certain mindset with yourself to not allow yourself to be influenced, because we always hear the devil and the angel on either shoulder, but some of us, it's irrelevant. Oh, they're just voices. Others, they tend to be easily influenced by the devil on their shoulder, and it's, and why? Why would that be? Why would people influence? But that's not for me to judge. It's just one of those things that some people are more easily manipulated by negative
Well,
entities.
you know what's interesting to me, Lucky, is that, you know, it's very popular. Well, it seems to be more popular now to use like certain terms, and a lot of people use the term spirit. I talk to spirit. I talk to spirit. I talk to spirit. But if you actually go back to, well, what was still in standing for up until, I don't know, the turn of the 19th century, the spiritualism movement, spirit just meant also any energy that was present. And so spirit also could relate to in scripture, and most people also just knew it this way, that a spirit could move through the land. So, like a spirit of depression moves through the land, a spirit of anger moves through the land, a spirit of this moves. So, for me in today's world, I struggle in today's world with terminology because I'm fixed in the old ways, right? So that in itself, like we talk about, for some reason people make Lucifer out to be a bad being. He's not. But the many have come to understand, like the devil, who would be over all these demons, right, is actually just a spirit that influences. So it could be like the devil's running muck over the land or whatever. So in essence, I mean, everything is energy. And I think it's interesting that we forget that part of things. So it's like if we're talking about actual beings, bodies of some form, that you see or don't see. If you're talking about then they'd be in different tiers of, you know, like an army. You know, there's different ranks of demons. So some of them are literally just doing orders for somebody higher up. Some of them are parasites. Some of them, they all have their purpose and function. For me personally, it's that spirit that would move over the land that does the more harm. So when you're talking about like the devil and the, angel on the shoulder, that to me brings me back to that concept of no, whatever energy flows through the land. And we see it too so much, even with social media. It's fascinating because I'll sit back and everybody will start talking about the same topic, and I have no idea who said it first. You see what I'm saying? Like it's fascinating to watch this stuff. And it to me when I'm watching it, oh, we're on the spirit of this right now. This is what we're talking about. This is the spirit that's moving through the land over the streaming devices. And you can never find out who said it first. So when we talk demons, in my mind, so I can be clear to others, I'm thinking about actual bodies of form, their purpose, their goal with human and society and other beings, what they do. When we talk about the influence, I think the spirits that move through the land, the whispers, the this, the that, the devil on the shoulder is much more influential than, the actual beings.
Okay.
So it's a little bit, I don't know, that must have been a tangent that I went on. I'm sorry, Lucky.
So you believe that there's a demonic energy that can cover a certain group or area?
Yeah, yes. They've known it for a long time. I mean, humans, we've known it for a long time. And it's spoken about in all ancient texts, stories. I mean, it's always been known. But somehow we've made it now that the majority of people say, well, I've talked to spirit. And when that first started happening, I was like, well, who's spirit? What, like, do you know who you're talking to? Because for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, that term was used in a different way.
Hmm.
And you don't know if you're talking to good or bad, right? That term was used so differently. So does that still exist? Yeah. And I think though that kind of influence actually not only can it sweep through the land and have more effect, it also can take over a person much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it can affect our lives just easier more than so like an entity. Not saying an entity can't, but a negative spirit that moves through the land with, I don't know, the spirit of disappointment, the spirit of shame, the spirit of this, the spirit of guilt, the spirit of loss, right? Of any kind of loss can seep into the human consciousness much easier. And if it's affecting a whole area, well, then it starts playing off of itself, opposed to an entity that's on your back trying to talk into your ear. It's more detrimental, the quote unquote spirit of the energy flow, that energy that can flow through a place, people, places, and things. So I'm not opposed to talk. I guess, I don't know, maybe the spirit that's within me wants to say this. I don't know why I went on this tangent. I guess I just wanted to make things clear that when we talk about demonic possession, when we talk about demonic stuff, it is not just entities. There's a whole lot of going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if all is energy or we open up with egregores, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think of a spirit that is a thought that is catastrophic, a thought that sweeps through the land and it grabs hold of all the peoples. It's very dangerous, right? And that is also demonic in
Yeah.
its origin, in its definition. Evil.
Yes, and that kind of makes things more complicated. And
You just went, thanks, Court. Thanks for Friday night, making it complicated on me.
no, it's just part of the whole dynamic of definitions and
Mm.
whew.
When I started a podcast a long time ago, there was only like 5 shows with somebody. It was kind of a difficult run, but that was my main goal of that podcast, was to talk about definitions, just period. Just it has gotten so crazy out there. I mean, it started becoming crazy, you know, in the 70s and the new age, and now it's just like pop psychology and new age and language that things are not meaning what they had meant for thousands of years. And here's the problem with that, Lucky, is we say something because we're basing it off of today's understanding of it. That does not mean the energy that's attached to that word has caught up to today, right? It could still imply what it always meant for millions of years. You see what I'm trying to say? So it's that's a passion of mine. I don't want to, let's not get into that tangent, but it is an issue because also people don't know what the hell they're talking about most of the time.
Yeah,
Period. Yeah.
which is, yeah, that's the problem. A lot of these things that, I mean, I got one for you. The jinn, the genie,
The
the
chin.
jinn,
Yeah.
they don't fall in the demon or angel. They're kind of an elemental kind of being, or again, are they more interdimensional elemental, or do they fall in the demon
Well,
box?
the word jinn really, you know how we use the word like paranormal?
Hmm.
The word jinn, to make it the easiest understanding, the word jinn is used to pretty much categorize anything that's in that category.
Hmm.
So, I mean, elementals can be under jinn, demons can be under jinn, um, even, well, I'm not going to say angels because, sorry, that pause is because it depends on the faith of the individual talking about which jinn.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and a lot of them are still somewhere within the Abrahamic faith. Well, angels also get kind of tricky when you start learning all the different faiths that go on, right? So, period is jinn are the topic. There's a bunch of subcategories. I mean, you could take, anything really. I mean, take a succubus. Is that a elemental? Is that a interdimensional? Is that a this? Is that because, or take an incubus? I mean, think about it. You could see an incubus or succubus in person, but you could also see them in your dreams,
Hmm.
right? That is still, even though it has a name to it, it's still under the category as jinn. So, jinn to me and is just kind of a way to title the paranormal, you know, because
Hmm.
we like to put a lot of titles on things. We like to put titles on our creatures, our crypto, and our this and our that. We like to put it on, and it's funny how we do that because we'll have a title, it could be paranormal ghost activity, it could be crypto, it could be, interdimensional, it could be, all the stuff that we're talking about here, elementals, but then within that, there's many categories, right? Many subtexts. So what they're doing is they're just doing the baseline. This is jinn, and you decide, because not all jinn are bad. See, that's the thing too. Most of us don't understand or know enough about that culture,
Hmm.
and we automatically think all jinn are bad. They're not all bad. Same as like not all elementals are bad, not all interdimensional are bad, right? So it's that's a lot of cultural learning that I think I'd love for people to start doing. That make me happy. Um but I guess I forgot your question. Oh, were you saying that are they demonic, the jinn?
Well, let's just. I was going to say they have to fall in a category, but again, they don't have to because a lot of these things are perspective based because we don't know exactly which one you're talking about. So there's a jinn, and they could fall in each kind of jinn could fall in a couple of categories. That's what you're trying to say?
Yes, exactly. I mean, they have so many, and I mean, it's so rich in history and stories and beliefs and concepts, um, throughout all the areas. Um, they have so many that intertwine with like how we try to make things very black and white here. It's not so black and white there.
Hmm.
So I like the example of the incubus. You could see them in person, but you can also see them in your dreams. How does that happen? So you see what I'm saying? It's so layered and rich within the experiences of the Middle East that mostly refer to as jinn. Same as like in the Asian areas, their stories and experiences, it's layered. You usually have to know the backstory to even understand, and that's what I love. I have appreciation for all cultures, right? And I think it's because of things like that. We tend to trust black and white. We want to label it. We don't try to even consider that there's a backstory or different experiences out there with beings, right? Like take Bigfoot. No one, it's always, are we afraid of this guy? Be afraid of them. They're big, they're scary, they make these crazy sounds. Be scared of them. We have no idea, really. We have no idea. I mean,
Hmm.
that could be a distant cousin of ours,
Hmm.
just living in a different dimension right now. And we spend most of our time talking smack about him. We have no idea. They investigate. Other cultures have stories, long running stories. We lost a lot of that because we lost a lot of our native stories.
Hmm.
So people need to study. So I'm done a lot of talking, Lucky. How are you doing?
No, fine. I'm just trying to. I mean, a lot of these. I have a list of beings, and we'll never get through them.
Oh. Oh, you do. See, I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, it's probably a page and a half, but let's just go
There's
through them.
many a Friday nights. So
That's true.
what
I
are
mean,
you thinking? How's the chat doing? Hello everybody. Happy Friday.
we've got four people. It's nice, quiet.
Yeah.
It's they're listening to us mostly. So, but then there's one of these that I have on here that I think I know where to place them. If I had to put them in a box, which is not fair, but the dragons.
Oh. Oh man. Dragons. I have some kind of something with dragons and I haven't even looked at it yet. I have something. You know why? Since I was a little kid. Um well, first of all, I don't know what my issue is with dragons. I don't know if this is a love issue or a hate issue or I'm just complexed. I might just be complexed, right? I'm going to go back to when I was a little kid. My imaginary friend that saved me and rescued me wherever in my mind or whatever was a dragon. And I stopped communicating with that dragon by the time I was like 8 or so, right? My one of my master teachers, she's passed now. I was with her at one point. She was like, "Hey, Courtney, do you know a dragon?" And I'm like, I'm well into my 30s, well, or actually, I was 40. I don't know. She was like, "Do you know a dragon?" And I just paused and I'm thinking, "No, I don't know any dragons. Like, what are you talking about?" And she looked at me. She said, "You don't know a dragon, Courtney?" I had never told anyone about my dragon.
Hmm.
And I paused and it kind of flooded back into me. I hadn't thought about it in 30 years. And then she told me, she said, your dragon would like to start hanging out with you again, type thing. But even post that, Lucky, I totally forgot about my dragon. Now I'm like 10, I'm 11. I knew deep within me that dragons were going to come back. Like, come back as in we are watching them fly overhead.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, since like that very deep in me, dragons are going to be present in full effect, full form, full body of form. This is not metaphysical. This is full on. I knew it to the core to be true. Never got rid of that. And I guess I have now spent my whole life going, I don't know what the hell to do with that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask me about dragons, there's a little bit of bias, a little bit of emotion, a little bit of this and that. Dragons would be elementals. I mean, dragons are elementals. A lot of people attribute a lot of spiritual attributes to them, which you can. A lot of the stories, especially maybe talk about like the Asian stories and some other stories when it's a dragon that they come in on. That's not necessarily a dragon. That is more like a spaceship aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But actual dragons, those are just beings that were of the land and will come back again. I think they are already here. I do think they're in the water. I don't know what to do with it. To tell you the truth, it's like I'm not scared, but yet I'm scared. It's like I'm scared for all the humans. Like, what are the humans going to do when they actually see, hundreds of them see an actual dragon flying?
Mm-hmm.
What chaos would that cause? That's my actual, like, oh my gosh, opposed to what the dragon might do. That's where my thoughts go. Is
Mm-hmm.
what would the humans do if a dragon showed up? What do you think the humans would do, Lucky?
I think that a good percentage won't even see it, and the ones that do see it will be broken up to freaked out, and others just stuck in awe. So
But
yes,
what if
would
it's like they're so like they're for some reason it's not just like one dragon flying the land or whatever, and it's like clear. See, here's the thing: is different stories have different. Some will say that it only comes out with the clouds and storms, and that's because it is living in the water. I think the majority of them are in water. So then, of course, it's a cloudy, it's storm. They might not see it because it's just taking its opportunity to fly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's been many different variations of dragons, many that don't come out necessarily in storms. I mean, it could be a clear ass day, and all of a sudden there's a dragon. I mean, a
Mm-hmm.
huge dragon. I'm more. Do I think it's possible? Do I really think it's possible? Yes, I really think it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of things that are possible, and I do think there's a lot of things that will probably eventually happen. And I think humans need to get more on board as to they are their own being. Respect that being. Don't try to use that being for your own bidding. Also, don't try to harm that being if it's not harming you. You see what I'm saying? Like, humans are so they live already with so much fear that it's a constant reacting in that fear. And so it's like I'm scared for the dragon, I'm scared for the humans. It'd be all messed up if something like that happened in today's world right now. So humans need to evolve a lot for dragons to be present.
True, true. It's
Do you
it.
think there's dragons, Lucky?
See, that's much more complicated than I can even define. Okay, yes, I know there's dragons. That's it.
Right. See, like you just know, like it's a knowing, like it's real.
For me, it's like knowing that there are robins and there are blue jays. It's just they're
Exactly.
there,
Hmm.
um, and And if someone said to me, well, you see it, but you weren't able to, interact but yes, I can. It's not a big deal. And to me, they're the, I won't say the door's always open, but the window's always open for dragons. They can always pop in and, but to the extent that you're talking, that's something that would, depending on where. I mean, over China, there'd be people who go, yes, so what? Oh, yeah, I've heard the story.
Exactly. Right. That they would go, yep, okay. So yes, I totally agree with that. That depends on the culture and the location and all sorts of things. I I truly do think this is not so much metaphysical dialogue that we're having about dragons. This is, like I said, spiritual stuff is attributed to them. But if you talk to a bunch of people, everybody's got spirit animals, right? There's all sorts of spiritual, metaphysical things attached to our four-leggeds. Dragons to me are just four-leggeds of that species. I do think it's not we'll see them if we can astral plane to somewhere else. No, I'm literally this earth, us humans, dragons, scales, all of it, 9 yards. They are living body creatures. I fully believe that.
And the same with the fairies and the gnomes, the leprechauns. Those are all elementals. What would they
Yeah,
fall
I mean those were fairy, you said fairy, gnomes,
fairy, elves, gnomes,
leprechauns.
leprechauns,
Well,
and
leprechaun is kind of a half breed. Those are all kind of half breeds. Are they under the category of fey, which is under the category of elementals? Yes. But a lot of them are like half breed things.
And then there's I'm not going with them, but let's go with something that the Greek gods, they're gone. I'm going to go with the Greek gods because there are so many. There's the Norse gods, there's the Greek gods, Egyptian gods, and there
South
might be
American gods, all sorts
well,
of gods.
well,
Tons of gods.
the South
You're a
American,
god. Everybody in the chat right now is a god.
right? But the South American gods, I believe, are still being worshipped in some way or another.
They are.
But the Greek gods themselves, there might be some people who still worship the Greek gods, but they're such a small minority and nothing like when Greece was in its heyday. So could those Greek gods just be angels who put on a mask to work with
a lot of them were, sweetheart. A lot of them were.
Aramark.
Or it's well, there's a lot of angels out there that we don't know about. Stories do get lost, or they never discuss that one well enough. But a lot of the quote unquote gods were actually were angels.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we get into the demigod thing, the this and that, but it's a lot of them were quote unquote, it's interplaying, because think about that. An angel comes down, they're helping, and we say come down, but just an angel shows up and they're helping you with all this stuff, or they're saying do this, do that, which is how it first was, right? Until a whole bunch of things happen. We would, as us humans, we would then create them into gods. We would make them gods.
Mm-hmm.
God is just a term for a greater being than us. A higher power greater than us. Well, an angel with wings doing all this stuff, teaching us all this stuff with all his messages and teachings, that's a god now. So a lot of them are just angels. But then there's the power story. The power of the energy people give an angel. It is then there you go into the demigods, and those are half breeds,
Hmm.
So, yep, a lot of them, especially Greek, the Greek, actually all of them really, um, and that's why so many stories also intertwine as well. So they were mostly angels.
Hmm. That makes sense. I mean, it does go with the others. The Mesopotamian gods, they were larger than life, but again, influential. And you know, when the Abrahamic puts one god, but the people under him as angels, you know, it's just remarking,
Yes,
repackaging the same.
it's packaging,
Yeah.
and take that too. I mean, like you brought up Lucifer, that's supposedly started this war against God and then was banished to Earth, which is not at all accurate, right? But we always need a villain. Like there's always needs to be a face to what happens in the world that is wrong.
Hmm.
Well, let's say I was another angel that now they are worshiping me, and I am like this great god. Oh my goodness, I'm the king of the castle. Not really, wasn't created that way. Lucifer is ahead of me, way more powerful, way more loving, way more of light, is the light, the morning star, is nothing but there's scripture that talks about he is the one that is fully connected to source, opposed to the angels who they're connected but they're not connected like he is. So anyways, so let's say I now have this title of God, I am ruling, I am doing great. Well, then what am I going to do? I'm going to start shaming the one that is actually the one representation of God in living form here. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to shame him all to hell. So it's the stories have gotten so complex over the years, but yet we still see the same actions taking place of today. We have never Humans have never stopped repeating.
Hmm.
They have never stopped. We have done the same exact thing since the beginning as we do now. It just looks different, but it's the exact same story every single time. And so those gods, um, to me, they were just a bunch of spoiled. They turned into spoiled brats by us humans,
Yeah.
because they were just angels that were supposed to help and do their function and leave or stay. And man, the humans turned them into spoiled brats. So that's my feeling about most gods.
And that's it. I mean, it's they chose their lot, and then they fell.
Yeah.
That's it. They weren't. They no longer became the predominantly worshipped being because they became selfish. It's just one of those things, and they replaced by others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's the same pattern over and over again. It really is. And, it might offend people because there's a lot of people that are into the gods,
Hmm.
There's a lot of people that are into the gods.
Hmm.
But really, they were always just a higher being. And I don't know why we give that, once again, something else that we give our power to.
True. True.
Where we started at the beginning of the show is where we're ending. Stop giving your power away to something else.
Th- that is the major point of all of this: is that the power's in us. We're the ones with all the reins and the control, and but unfortunately, sometimes we become the chauffeur. Even though we have power of the car, we let someone else tell us where to go and how to do it. And
Right.
that's when we got to stop and say, "Hey, no, this is my car. I'm driving it. Get out."
Yeah.
And But unfortunately, sometimes we need to stop somewhere and get some help from someone else to help get the
And
passage out.
what's really sad, Lucky, is that it doesn't matter what religion or faith you might subscribe to. From Christian to Muslim to Wiccan to any of it, really, somewhere in the mix, it is emphasized that we are the lesser beings. We are the lesser,
Mm-hmm.
us humans. And that just keeps being drummed into the human psyche that we are lesser than. That's not accurate, though, at all. It's just not accurate. But the more that we think that, that would be a spirit moving through the land that has permanently stuck itself, right? Um, it's not accurate. And I personally, I don't know what it would take to have more humans wake up to the fact that they're not less than and they don't need to worship anything or even ask for so much assistance and stuff. A lot of people are still asking for a lot of assistance when they're not understanding it's actually their own power of prayer, their own power of manifestating, their own power of this, their own power of that, actually doing the work. We're still contributing it to whomever else because we're putting ourselves below. We are not below in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know what it would take for humans to wake up to that fact. I don't
Well,
know.
I'm going to leave it with this, and this is going to be a little bit tough, but a lot of people don't want to take responsibility, and it's a lot easier to blame someone else. So the people who want to be in control of their lives, well, they have every opportunity to do it. And some of them are going to be like, say outwardly, voice wise, I want to be in more control. But then when it comes when the universe provides them with those tools, they push them away and say, yeah, that's this not now. I don't want to be in control right now, but I want to be in control, but just not right now. And again, then they pray to the angels or the gods, or create an egregore, because it's easier to have someone else do your work than actually walk in those
Right.
shoes and stretch
And be
those
responsible
muscles.
for the outcomes. You hit it on the head, man. Yeah. To be responsible for the outcomes and just responsible, period. Man, but the freedom within it though is like but I
And
get what you're
that's
saying and you're right. You're absolutely right, Lucky. That is what it is.
and honestly, the most powerful spiritual people like us give tools, but the tools are more like Dumbo with the feather, and the people,
Yeah.
unfortunately, they're in their best interest. So focusing on the tools and the tarot, or my cards, but the whole cards themselves come through me, my
Yeah.
ability to read them and express them, but the cards
Right.
have no power until I give it to them. And but it was much easier to do a big show with the cards rather than telling, you know,
Yeah.
what
That was a
the
great way to put it, Dumbo with the feather. That's
Mhm.
exactly how I feel about it too. And so it's like I'm never opposed to people using tools, and some are more inclined to, or crystals, or whatever they're into, right? Like I'm not ever opposed to that if that is the catalyst for them to learn that the power is within.
Mhm.
Like, then I'm totally cool. Like, I love telling people, like, if they start feeling stagnant or something, well, you ever think about putting that stuff away and see what you can do with yourself? You know what I mean? Like, you ever try to do just a reading without any cards? See what happens. You know, because that's what they are. They're tools. They're not. They're not the guiding. It's not what's within it. So yeah,
that
eventually.
yeah, no,
Eventually.
but most importantly, the goal of this video is to remain judgment free. we might be expressing our opinions for right now from different perspectives. But again, what we have said, and if I get comments on this video, I appreciate every comment I receive on the video. But again, please be open-minded to what we say, and don't think this is in concrete. It's kind of like in sand, or mud. We can form our different ideas and go different, perspectives. But again, spiritualism, it is on the other side, and we can see different things, and what we do with it is under our control. And what might be the same thing from two different people in their control might seem like the exact opposite to each other, and that's fine. You just let people do their thing as long as they're not hurting anyone else or themselves. Let's see what we can get, what we can produce.
Yeah, and Lucky, I'm glad you said that because when we're on my channel and we record at Stars of Morning Light, this is entitled Esoteric Tea. Esoteric just means what is hidden. So we're talking about a lot of hidden stuff. So therefore, it may be correct, it may not be correct, right? So compassion and grace, and hopefully at least good discussion.
Absolutely. With all these ideas, when you're walking with compassion, we can't go wrong. They're just ideas, and we're expressing them. It might seem wrong for someone else, but again, your perspective is a little different, and that's okay. I accept it. If you say what I'm saying is wrong, but I'm not hurting anybody, I still accept what you have to say, but I'm still going to have my beliefs, and they're not going to hurt you. Right. And you believing that my beliefs are wrong, I accept them. It's not going to hurt me.
Right. Excellent.
Okay. So have a great weekend, everyone. Have a happy Memorial Day. And if you see someone who is in the armed forces or former armed forces, just tell them thank you. Just make their day. A little bit, a little effort. Say thank you, shake their hand, and go on your way. And you'll sometimes it's hard for them, and we can bring them up, and try to not just do it now, but through the year. I'll try to remember to bring that up. But so thank you all for watching, and in the future, make any comments. I don't care. It's good. If you're going to be a troll, be nice. I don't mind trolls as long as you can be nice about it, which is possible. So, goodbye, everybody.
Bye, folks.
Thank you, Courtney.